pu'er cakes. Well, it's a very interesting category of tea because most of the tea don't tend to be compressed into any shape. Comparing to pu'er, pu'er is actually better known as compressed shaped tea. And the most popular one and most well-known one would be the disc or the cake. So by that I mean one of these jobbies. So one of these is typically 357 grams, and there are actually smaller ones. I don't have them, but it's like so say about this big. So I think they are roughly somewhere around 200 grams. Don't quote me on it. And in terms of pu'er cakes, there are definitely different types. In the last video, we very lightly touched on there is raw and there is ripe. So here we go. The raw ones is the traditional ones that is actually made. Pu'er actually started life as actually a Yunnan green tea. And they are very large leaf. They're very, very astringent to drink if you get them made fresh. And so what they do is they compacted it. In the old days, it's actually because of transportation reason. It's all a bit of a serendipity that they realize is actually after it's been compacted and traveled for months, it actually can turn into a really lovely tea. But anyway, so with the raw one, basically what happens is that they compact it and then they just basically let it sit in room temperature and just taking the grace of time and natural environment and all that, it gradually age. So what happens is that, let me see, what happens is that you will have a cake that could be quite light in color in the beginning, kind of like green tea-ish color. Now this one is called golden water or 水黄金. I've already broken a little bit of it. But this is sort of a yellowish, greenish color, and the lighter bits would be more of the buds, the silverish bits, and you'll notice that pu'er typically have a little birth certificate in it. It's always partly embedded. And this one is from 2011. Okay, this one is right now it's 2014. 3 years old. Typically for raw cake, not very drinkable, but this particular one is amazing. It's very, very nice, and it certainly reflects the skill of the tea maker. It can actually make that substantial difference in terms of how long it needs to be aged. Raw tea cake, generally speaking, back in the old days, they would say that anything that is under 15 years, less than 15 years, is not drinkable. But people are getting pretty impatient, so now, it kind of go from 10 to 5. So even 5 years old pu'er cake, raw pu'er cake, people could be saying that it is totally drinkable. And this one, it's only 3-4 years old. Yeah, I mean, again, the age certainly makes a bit of a difference, but at the same time, it's not the only determining factor of the quality of the flavor of the pu'er cake. Now, this one, for example, come from supposedly a tree that is very old, like over 150 years old, and it creates what they call purple buds. Now you might notice that the leaves seem to be a little bit larger than last time. You can certainly rewind the video and compare, but generally speaking, older trees tend to have larger, coarser leaves. So when you buy old tree pu'er, you want to go for the buds. Versus if you're buying the shrubby ones, the young ones, you probably want to go for the slightly more mature, larger leaves. So again, you can hear that there is some difference there. And yeah, I mean, raw pu'er is a life lesson, to understand them. Every single cake is different. Every single plantation is different. Some of them, like the most big names like Mang Hai is actually, they create cakes that are fairly standardized. So every year the quality, the flavor is fairly similar. They are actually more into, kind of making things a bit more uniform versus like Xiaguan, Haguan, and some of the other places, they make more artisan types, so they would be a bit different every year, and people love it for that reason. I mean, I personally would buy a Saklan cake, but I'm not too big on Manghai. And also Manghai or Manghai is actually they make ripe cake more, and with Manghai is yeah, it's just a little flatter the taste. I'm just seeing if I have got one here, but I might, for the reason of the video, I won't keep rummaging. So I'm going to move on to the ripe tea. The ripe pu'er is typically what you buy in loose form. If you go out to like Chinese grocery shop, you'll find the loose ones, and they're typically the ripe tea. In fact, not all Chinese know this stuff either. So if you look at the box and it doesn't tell you, then you can pretty much guess that, you know, the cheap variety is the ripe stuff. And ripe ones, what it means is basically, go back to that Yunnan green tea as a start. And remember, we're talking about you have to put it, you know, somewhere nice, nicely, slightly humid for, you know, 5, 10, 20 years. And so people are saying, well, shucks, can I have my pu'er sooner? So what happens is with the ripe ones, they actually, in a moisture control room, store all these pu'er to speed up the process of aging and the enzymes coming out to turn this, you know, green astringent tea into a really nice drinkable dark chocolate-ish brownish tea. So with that, it means that it's actually a speed up process. It's not really, they're not like putting chemicals or anything, but it's just that a moisture control room, so it's higher moisture than normal. So they will actually speed up the process. The result is that the ripe cake the taste tend to be a little bit more monotonous. It's hard to describe, you know, once you have them side by side and try different ones from different age, you will notice the difference a bit more. In fact, some of the pu'er are so light in color, you know, sometimes you kind of wonder, hang on, is this even the same tea anymore? So some of them could be kind of like a really light, if you know Darjeeling style, like a light Darjeeling kind of golden brownish color, versus the ripe pu'er. It's typically one type of color, and that is basically a nice, the nice ones would be a coppery-ish dark brown color. It's trying to find the right description. I mean, that's sort of as close as it gets. A little bit kind of like the coca mix and water type color, if you've got the ones that has not been aged as well. And there are definitely other ones, like for example, I've got these little jobbies here called Tocha, and they are just basically made the same way, compressed, and they tend to be ripe ones, and they're called Tocha because to is actually implying that it's shaped like an alga. So you know, mushrooms. My kids call them mushrooms. So there's these ones, and these ones they're getting actually really creative these days. Besides the standard just pu'er, sometimes they add rose petals, roasted rice and whatnot, even koi. So yeah, there are definitely quite unusual flavors with those ones. I've got another one here that is given by a friend. Unfortunately, it is already open, so you can't quite entirely see the Goria's original self. But basically what happens is they've got these mandarin that they've taken off the fruit, the flesh. They are not actually the valuable part of this particular mandarin, and they kept the peel. Imagine the moist one, and then they put the tea leaves in it, and then they just wrap it up and let it dry together. So all that mandarin flavor goes into the tea. And I've tried one that is really, really, really nice. It's quite hard to get them in Australia because anything with citrus peel is pretty tricky to get in. So I'm getting this one with my life. But yeah, there are these types as well. And I know that these days there are also manufacturers looking at the modern consumption and say, look, you know, the ginormous disc is just, you know, pretty hard work for ordinary folks to break them. So what they do is they actually turn them into like chocolate bars, you know, a slab with sort of indentations into little squares, little cubes. So you can just break it off that way. And each one of them will be good enough for one serving, one Chinese serving. They're pretty strong for the Western standard. Yeah, I mean there are definitely different ways to manufacture them now. But generally speaking, the disc is still the ones that you want to collect if you want to, you know, really want to store them. If you are wanting to drink them right away, then obviously it really doesn't matter. It becomes more of a personal preference, whether it is disc, broken disc, which is what we often sell to help customers to try them out, the little mini tocha, or the loose leaf if you just really want a cheap pu'er to start just to get that journey going. I mean, that's how I started as well, because you really do need to, you know, try a lot of them. I mean, I've got about 10, 12 kicks here in my box. I've collected over the years, and they are all different. And it's pretty fun sometimes just opening them up like right now and just having a look. Just see how they age. How's my baby doing? So here's another one. This is an oldie. And if you are wanting to break them up to drink, typically, I'll get one that's open and show you roughly how you do it. I think this one, yellow stem, is about 20 years old or something. No, not 20. Shouldn't be 20. If it's 20, I'll be quite rich. Hold on. And yeah, I mean, if you ever buy one, you can store them. I would definitely say store away from the kitchen, but you want to store somewhere dust-free. So like I put it in a cardboard box. They're all wrapped up in that tissue that they normally come in. So for example, this one's open. And so what you normally typically do is you get, I mean, you can buy a pu'er knife, but if not, just, you know, one of these type of, you know, standard household knife, not too sharp, and just lid in and just, you know, flick it off. Now, I've seen two schools of people doing this. The one that I prefer is that you chip a bit off on the side and you chip a bit off from the middle. The reason is that all the bits on the outside, they age faster. All the bits in the middle, they age slower. So you kind of even it out. The other way is, and it's the easier way, is just simply chip off from the side. And you will find some of these cake, they're really easy to break. Like this one is very easy to break. There we go. And just gently just guide the leaves out. I mean, they're sort of a bit of grain how they're compacted. So, you know, just break them off. And good to go. But yeah, I prefer to sort of mix them a bit, so it's not just taking all the good stuff on the side. But it's really, you know, kind of up to you as well. So there you have it, a bit of a spiel about pu'er cakes. You will find that in teas.com.au there are a couple of pu'er cakes. Pu'er cakes is still a bit of a newbie in Australia, and we're gradually going to bring a few more in. But we really need to see, you know, how well they respond, you know, with the existing ones so far. And you will notice that we do actually break them up because we know some of them are quite a bit of a beast to break up. So we want you to try it. We're not, you know, thinking that you're going to store them for prosperity. So, yeah, they're ready to consume. Basically, that's the form that we are providing them for you to try. And I do hope that you enjoy these two videos in relation to pu'er, and I certainly will look forward to hearing your feedback. If you want to try some pu'er, or if you have tried some pu'er, share some experience with us. Everyone find pu'er a bit differently. I was certainly most surprised when I start trying cakes, because I had the ripe one for a really long time. I mean, they're default tea in Hong Kong, so I know it quite well from that perspective, but I never think much about it until I got into pu'er cakes. So there you have it, and yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to drop us an email using a contact us form in keys.com.au, or drop us a comment on the video under the video link. Catch you later.